SITREP World Briefing for May 18, 2026. A drone strike ignited a fire near the Barakah nuclear power plant in Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates said, placing one of the Gulf's most sensitive pieces of civilian infrastructure at the center of a regional crisis. Emirati authorities said there were no injuries and no radiation leak, but they condemned the attack as a threat to regional security. The incident has heightened concern because Barakah is the UAE's first nuclear power station and sits on the country's western coast, making any strike nearby politically and strategically significant. The reported fire on the edge of the facility highlights how drone warfare is extending beyond direct battlefields and into energy infrastructure. Ukraine launched a large drone attack on the Moscow region, Russian authorities said, as Russia and Ukraine exchanged overnight strikes across Russian and Ukrainian territory. Russian officials said 3 people were killed in the Moscow region, while President Volodymyr Zelensky described the attacks as a justified response to repeated Russian strikes on Ukrainian cities. The exchange came alongside a broader Russian assault on Ukraine that involved hundreds of drones and nearly 24 missiles overnight, with more than 30 people reported wounded in Odessa and Dnipro. Moscow is facing increasingly frequent long-range drone incursions, while Ukraine continues to absorb larger Russian attacks that combine drones and missiles in an effort to overwhelm defenses and disrupt transport, energy facilities, and urban life far from the front line. The United States and Iran continued talks after an impasse. President Donald Trump warned from Washington that Tehran needed to move quickly toward an agreement or face consequences. Iranian officials said discussions were still continuing through mediation. Trump stated there would be nothing left of Iran without a peace deal, linking the urgency of diplomacy to the risk of renewed U.S.-Israeli military action and a broader regional war centered on Iran's nuclear program and its allied forces. The warning highlighted how little time Washington believes remains for a negotiated settlement, with the White House pressing for a nuclear deal that would secure a lasting halt to hostilities. The current talks matter beyond Washington and Tehran because failure could reopen a direct U.S.-Israel confrontation with Iran, unsettle energy markets, and deepen insecurity across the Gulf, where recent drone strikes near infrastructure in the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia have already shown how quickly pressure on the talks can spill into attacks on regional partners and critical facilities. President Xi Jinping said in Taipei on Sunday that Taiwan would neither provoke conflict nor give up its sovereignty, using a public address to draw a firm line after recent comments by U.S. President Donald Trump and discussions between Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping that touched on Taiwan. Lai also defended Taiwan's purchases of U.S. weapons, arguing that the island needs to strengthen its self-defense after Trump's description of such sales as a possible bargaining chip stirred concern in Taiwan about whether Washington's posture could shift. Lai's statement was his first direct response to the Trump-Xi meeting, in which Taiwan independence was discussed. It was intended to convey that Taipei would not initiate a confrontation across the Taiwan Strait, and that it would not accept Beijing's sovereignty claims. That balance is central to Taiwan's security strategy because the island governs itself democratically, while Beijing regards it as part of China and has long opposed foreign military support for Taipei. In that setting, Lai's defense of U.S. arms procurement indicated that Taiwan's leaders still see outside defense assistance as a practical necessity. The remarks are significant beyond Taipei because U.S. arms sales have for decades been one of the most sensitive elements in relations among Taiwan, China, and the United States. Any suggestion that those sales could be treated as leverage in broader U.S.-China bargaining can unsettle policymakers, investors, and military planners on the island. By defending the purchases while repeating that Taiwan would not provoke a fight, Lai sought to reassure domestic audiences that his administration would pursue deterrence without abandoning restraint, and to signal abroad that Taiwan intends to preserve its autonomy through both political resolve and continued defense preparation. Sources are available at sitrepbrief.com.